What's up, good people, and happy Monday. Man, it's been a long time since we've had a happy Monday. You know, we've got Cowboy fans that are mad because, we won. We're messing up draft position and everything else. And you know what? I'm not going to be mad about it. I'm happy that I got a win. At least I can keep the Commanders off my back for, till the end of the season at least. At least it gives me a little bit of a break. We know the Eagles are running away with the division right now. Saquon Barkley is looking like an MVP, and, Eagle fans are trolling me because I said that, he was overrated this summer, and they're bringing that stuff up. They're coming for me, they're coming for my meats and everything else. But looking at this game, I have to issue a bit of an apology because I have been on my soapbox saying that the Cowboys can't expect to win a Super Bowl when they're signing aging veterans, okay, that they're literally letting go 9 starters and that they bring in aging veterans at the end of training camp and USFL guys. Well, Josh Daniels made a liar out of me because he ended up playing really, really well. Now, but before let's pump the brakes a little bit before we get ready to put him into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. After an incredible performance yesterday, he had 12 tackles, 10 solos, 2 assists, and a sack yesterday. Okay, that was freaking insane how well he played. In his second start with the Cowboys, and we're talking about a guy who was a USFL guy. This is an article in the Laundry Hat. Let me read a little bit of this, and then I want to give you some thoughts about something that we must do this offseason. The return of Deron Bland and Jordan Lewis paid dividends in the secondary, while Micah Parsons, Osa Digizua, Mozzie Smith, and Chauncey Golston anchored a fantastic game on the defensive line. You have to look and say this is the best game we've had on the defense all season. And this is with the Washington team that had been doing some really good things. With Bland and Lewis not giving an inch in coverage, Daniel aimed to pick on former undrafted free agent Josh Butler, making his second start in as many weeks due to injuries. Butler was more up to the challenge as he was one of the best games in U.S. Cowboys undrafted free agent history. Butler gave up a lot of catches. He was fantastic in touch and coverage. He broke up 3 passes and added a team-high 12 tackles and a sack to boot. The Cowboys announced after the game that Butler's 3 pass breakups were the most by an undrafted Dallas player since 1994. The last undrafted Cowboy with 3 pass breakups in a game was Sterling Moore in 2013 against the Packers. Tony Romo is still the quarterback. So you look at this again. This is Butler's second career start. He signed to the active roster last week against the Texans. His final year at Michigan was 2018. He didn't play football professionally until 2023 with the Michigan Panthers of the USFL. Butler's performance earned him an invite to the Cowboys training camp. He's been cut multiple times, and he was signed to the practice squad in August. With little experience, the Commanders smartly tested Butler to the tune of 12 targets per Football Focus. He had seen opposing quarterbacks avoid Diggs and pick on rookie Ceylon Carson. The 5th-round pick was allowed chunk plays after chunk plays, and he was benched on Sunday. That game against the Eagles, it was just like, oh, man, he was bad. Bland was hardly heard from all game. It would have been a long afternoon for Zimmerman's defense if Butler wasn't up to the challenge. Nobody would have batted an eye if the 28-year-old didn't perform, but he played a prominent role in the team's best defensive outing of the season. Butler may need to stack impressive performances before we can say with certain he deserves a spot on next year's defense. Given the need for quality depth cornerbacks, though, he may have earned another year in the league with Sunday's display. Excuse me, sorry. My throat is still sore from screaming so much yesterday. I've had so much pent-up frustration that it was nice to get that win. But here's the thing that's interesting about the Cowboys, okay? Now, we thought that Ceylon Carson was going to be the next stud defensive back that we had that nobody had ever heard of. And you think about what has happened with Al Harris. I don't know what's going to happen with the coaching staff this offseason. And I'm going to say something that's going to sound crazy is I think one or two things could happen. One, the Cowboys have some winnable games that the Joneses will look back and say, well, if it wasn't for the injuries, we would have been a decent team, and end up bringing back Mike McCarthy to a lot of people's chagrin. But I'm going to put out here another one that might be interesting. And if we're talking about Deion Sanders being the head coach, that you might keep Mike Zimmer, because Primetime loves Mike Zimmer. Primetime gets a lot of advice from Mike Zimmer. And you may be looking at a situation where the Cowboys defense has been getting better, but not getting help from the offense. And at some points, you just end up, having to put up the white flag. And when you look at how the defense has been decimated by injuries, anytime you lose 4 defensive ends, you are hurting big time. If this defense continues to start playing better, then you start saying that, well, Mike Zimmer just needed more time to get his system on board, and he has to get the right players that the Cowboys may bring him back. But even beyond that, the person that you've got to make sure that comes back is Al Harris. Because you think about Diggs, he was a second-round draft pick. Nobody thought that he was going to be what he became, where he was literally picking off everybody. Deron Bland, then right behind it, became the next heir apparent, who nobody saw Deron Bland being a late-round draft pick, coming around and being on a historic pace in pick sixes. And if Josh Daniels, again, he's only had 2 stars, people, so don't go crazy just yet. Okay, it could be a flash in the pan. We just had the game of his life, and he goes back to being just so on. We've seen that happen before. But if it isn't, if what you saw here, and I'm not going to say you're going to see that every week from this guy, because that's next to impossible. But if you see consistency there, you have to look at this and say, the Cowboys, what they're doing in the secondary with developing players that nobody else knew anything about or cared about, then you got to point your fingers and say Al Harris definitely knows what the hell he's doing. And Al Harris definitely needs to be on this coaching roster next year, be it, assistant defensive coordinator or maybe even defensive coordinator. But what they've done with the secondary is just nothing short of miraculous. So, yeah, I really like seeing that. And this is what makes you wonder, what if the Cowboys had stayed healthy and added just a couple more pieces? How good could this team have actually been? Yeah. And I know I'm doing what we do. I'm doing what we do in the fact that, you get one win and all of a sudden people start saying, we're going to the playoffs. No, we're not going to the playoffs. We're not going to the Super Bowl. But you start looking and saying, here's some of the possibilities. All righty, good people. Tonight, 7 o'clock, but less than 2 hours, I'll be on with Primetime. I'm sorry, not Primetime, with Game Time, Bad Dog, and Cop Pizzle. Boy, that's a combination. It's going to be interesting to see how those guys are feeling right now after getting mollywopped by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm Mark Holmes, and I appreciate you guys. Peace out.